Hariyam, everyone. Will start with a very short prayer, as it is our tradition here. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavitvaram Sadgurum Brahmavitvaram. Thank you all for joining this session here today. This is the second of the session that we have had. We had one session last month on this topic as well. I do see one child on the call. Parnika, is that your name, Parnika? Okay, welcome. But primarily this session is meant more for the parents as much as it is for the kids. So if you want to have your mom come and sit along with you, that will be good too. It's mainly meant for the parent session from a session perspective. So I will start with a wonderful story that Swami Swarupanandaji, the current head of Chinmaya Mission, narrates to us a couple of times. At least I've heard him talk about it. Swamiji was a very well-established businessman before he ended up taking up to the sannyasa dharma and becoming Swami Swarupanandaji. He was handling his family's business along with his father, and he hails from Hong Kong. And while Swamiji is very active in the youth community, and he tends to speak a lot at the universities and various activities. So in one of his many trips to Hong Kong, he was supposed to give a speech in one of the universities there. And as tradition goes, some people would pick up Swamiji from the place where he is and then drop him off at the campus and then come back and pick him up at a later point in time. So in one such occasion, Swamiji was dropped off at a particular building thinking that this is the building that Swamiji is going to be giving the talk on. And the people that dropped him left. But then Swamiji later on found out that that is not the building that he is going to be giving the talk on. And he was trying to figure out how to get to the place where he is going to give the talk. Interestingly, he ended up meeting up with a student who said, "Oh, I am going in that very same direction, so why don't I take you there?" And Swamiji and him started to walk along. And as they began their journey towards this particular campus, the student was curious, obviously seeing Swamiji in his orange robes in a university campus. So he started to ask questions as to, what are you here? What are you doing? And Swamiji says he was in no mood to answer any questions because he was focused on giving the lecture. So he decided the best way to counter questions is with the help of questions. So he said, immediately, he said, "I'm here to give a lecture." And then immediately Swamiji flipped and said, "What are you doing here? What are you trying to pursue over here?" So then that student started to say, "I am pursuing a degree and so and this and that." And Swamiji said, "Oh, you're trying to pursue that particular degree. If that's what you want, I will make sure you get that degree immediately." So that student looked perplexedly at Swamiji and said, "You can try to do this in India, because in India you can buy a degree, but not in Hong Kong." But Swami said, "No, really, I will make sure that you get this degree immediately. That I can surely make sure." Oh, this person was really excited. He said, "Okay, that is wonderful." And then immediately after that, he said, "Oh, with that particular degree, I can get a job." Swamiji said, wait. You only said you want a degree. You didn't say you want a job." He said, "What do you mean? The purpose of getting the degree is to get a job." He said, oh, okay. He said, okay, why don't you come to our ashram? And he gave his business card and he said, I will get you a job tomorrow. We have a lot of work to do and we need a lot of people to work. He said, okay, great. The student was even more excited. Now he is going to get a job. And he asked Swamiji, what will be the pay that I will get? Swamiji said, wait. You only wanted a job. You didn't ask for any pay or anything. You only wanted a job. Why are you asking for pay now? He said, wait, the whole purpose of working is to get some money out of it. Swamiji said, oh, so you don't want the job. You really want the money. He said, okay, if that's what you want, give me your bank account information and I will deposit $1 million onto your bank account tomorrow. The student was even more perplexed now. He said, this Swamiji seems to be an interesting person that he is now giving me $1 million straight away to put in the bank. So then the student said, oh, then I will go buy a car. Again, Swamiji said, wait. I only said I'll put the $1 million in the bank account, not that you can spend that particular money. So he said, no. What is the point of having the money if you don't spend on things that you want to have? And the story continues that the student said, now I want to drive the car. Swamiji again said, you want a car, not the car that you want to drive. Why do you want to drive that car? And the continued conversation happened. And from this, we can see that from the very beginning, we are trying to achieve something which ends up being a means for something else, which ends up being a means for something else. And we keep on trying to do one thing after the other. But what are we ultimately trying to achieve through all the things that we do on a day-to-day basis? So we are trying to achieve ultimately happiness in and through everything that we are doing. And that is what all our pursuits have been, will be, and will continue to remain through generations as we go through. If that's what we are trying to pursue, which is happiness through all the things that we are trying to do, whether we are trying to get a high school degree, whether we are trying to get a college degree, getting a job, getting paid for the job, buying the things that we are buying, getting married, having children, getting them to go to school, the simple question that we have to ask ourselves is, at the end of all that, have we found that happiness? Have we come to recognize and understand that particular happiness that we have been searching for all these years that we have been doing things? And that is a question that each one of us should ponder and think for ourselves. Have we ultimately got that happiness that we are trying to look for? Have we been able to successfully say that, yes, I have found that happiness that I am looking for? And if we honestly analyze ourselves and think about it, we will come to the conclusion that we are yet in the search for that particular happiness. And we have not successfully been able to completely say that we have achieved the happiness that we wanted to achieve. Question comes is why we have not yet found that happiness, and what is that happiness, and how are we going to find that particular happiness? So if we think and analyze it in a lot more detail, we will find out that that happiness that we are trying to seek in the various things, in the various activities that we are doing in the outside world, is actually not there in whatever there is in the outside thing. Let's take a simple example, and this is probably more relevant here in US and potentially in North India, but more in the US than in South India. If in South India, you go and tell anyone that you are offering them curd rice, they will be in ecstasy and they'll be very happy to eat that particular curd rice. But if you offer curd rice to most of the people here as their primary source of meal, they are not going to find that very happy and enticing. So clearly, happiness is not in that particular curd rice, because some people seem to not enjoy it, but you seem to enjoy it. Add on to it a little further, you enjoy the first serving of the curd rice. In the second serving of the curd rice, your happiness should actually double, because you've now had 2 servings of the curd rice. The third serving, your happiness should triple. So effectively, if you're happy with curd rice, then you should be ready to eat the curd rice nonstop until you reach that ultimate level of happiness. In fact, it is actually the other way around. The more you eat curd rice, the proportionally the happiness keeps going down further and further and further and further. So both these experiences clearly show us that there is not that happiness in the object that we are trying to pursue or in the object that we are trying to get. So then where is the happiness? This could be easily understood with one simple example. And this we have seen in our kids all the time as they want a certain thing. Let's say they want a particular new gadget. Let's say they want a particular new toy. They are behind you and they are constantly asking you, I want this gadget, I want this tool, I want this device. And you initially push them off, you give them the reasoning, you explain to them it is not necessary, you explain to them it is expensive, it is not the right tool for you for your age. But eventually, through all the processes, let us assume that you said you are going to give them that particular gadget. Their excitement is almost at its peak, but not yet. Now you place the order in Amazon. And once that particular order is placed in Amazon, the child is even more excited to get that particular toy. And it's very interesting that my son, even today, 18 years old, who's ready to go to college, still does it. The day the Amazon delivery is scheduled, he is looking at the door starting at 8 o'clock in the morning when that particular thing is going to be delivered. Though he is 18 years old and he understands it takes time to deliver, he is still looking for that particular object to come through that particular delivery truck. And as soon as the delivery truck comes and he opens the package, that's when his excitement is at its peak, because he now has what he has been looking for. And then he uses it. His excitement either increases or decreases depending on whether it satisfied his need or not. And then after a week or a month, that gadget is sitting on the table. Nobody even bothers to look at that particular gadget. And he even almost has forgotten that he has this gadget with him for any more time. So how did that happiness occur? If you really analyze it, until that particular gadget was delivered at the doorstep and he had it in his hand, there was agitation, thinking in the mind. The mind was, I want it, it is coming, it is almost here, it is going to be delivered today. The package, hopefully it is in safe condition, it is not broken. All those thoughts are running through his particular mind. But the moment the gadget comes in his hand, all that agitation has subsided. And for a moment, the mind has become quiet. And when that moment of quietude happens for the mind experiences happiness. And this is what our rishis of yore have researched, analyzed, looked at practical experiences of life and come to the conclusion that when the mind and the intellect becomes quiet, one experiences happiness. Now, this quietude that we experience, which is actually inside of us, we mistakenly assume is coming from the object that is there in front of us which we have been wanting to get for all these days, all these months, all these years. Now, is that happiness permanent? No. Why? Because the moment that particular wish of that particular gadget is satisfied, immediately after, maybe a few seconds, maybe a few minutes, maybe a few hours, depending on your level of interest in that particular gadget, you immediately are off to the next object, next item, next agenda on your list. And the moment that happens, that happiness that you had for that few minutes is gone, and you're back into the process of seeking, looking for whatever you want to seek as your next item, next object. So this is what we are trying to pursue through all these activities. Now, having understood this, are we doing anything different for our children? Aren't we putting them through the exact same process day in and day out as we put them in the school systems? We send them to school, we put them in the education. We want them to get the best grade, not because you want them to get the best grade so that they learn, because you want to ensure they get the right admission in the college that you want them to get admission into. Then we put them into all the various extracurricular activities: dance, music, sports, chess club, science Olympiad. The list is endless. Robotics. We put them on all those activities. For what? So that they can fill up their resume and can get the right admission in the college. This is what we are trying to do with our children. And we are hoping that they do this exact same thing, get into the college, get a job, get everything. And we are hoping that they will find happiness through the exact same process that we have followed. Interestingly, we are yet to find that happiness. But we have this belief that our children will somehow find the happiness doing the exact same thing that we have done all these days, all these months, all these years. And this is where Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda comes in and says that if you have been doing the same thing that you have always done, and you are going to have your children do the same thing that they have always done, how are we going to find this happiness that is elusive? How are we going to find the happiness that we are yet to find? And Gurudev says, there is a way, there is a method, and that is you can quieten the mind without the help of an external object. If we can learn to practice the quietening of the mind without the experience of an external object, we can get that without depending on anything else. Now, how do we do this? How do we achieve this? This is where Bal programs like Bal Vihar, summer camp, the various online camps, and all these come into picture. Because quietening the mind is not something that happens naturally. Habitually, if you've trained the mind to constantly think on objects, suddenly just because you said, I want to quieten the mind and experience this happiness, it is not going to happen. So it needs to be cultivated, it needs to be developed, it needs to be educated. While all this is happening, one of the key things that we need, and this is the real purpose of values in life. Values in life help in quietening the mind. So why should we tell the truth? Because the moment you tell a lie, you now have to remember that particular lie for a significant amount of time so that somebody does not catch telling that particular lie, saying, hey, I caught you. So this very fact that you have to remember that particular lie is an agitation in the mind because of which your mind cannot be quiet. So the value of truthfulness is a value purposely intended for quietening of the mind. And this is the mission and the goal of pretty much all the religions in the world. They tell you why we should practice a value, but the science behind it is something that Gurudev brought out and presented to all of us in a way, as he jokingly says, we college educated illiterates is what Gurudev calls all of us. Says that we have brought that particular knowledge and brought that particular information to people like us so that we can understand what this philosophy and what this science is all about. And this is what is taught in our scriptures in the form of Vedas. It is taught in the form of Smritis, which are reflections on the Vedas, which is then brought out in the form of Puranas, which are the various stories of the various gods and various other things. It's the same thing that is presented, and it is presented through that. And ultimately, it is the same concept that is presented in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana in the form of stories that a common person can understand. Now, what does these stories do? I was thinking about this morning, and something hit me very interesting. I'm sure all of us have chanted the basic rhyme, Baba Black Sheep, correct? All of us have done it. Now, what does it say? Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool? And we blindly, as a parrot, chant it. Yes, sir, 3 bags full. One for my master, one for my dame, one for the little boy who lives down the lane. Right there is value indicated. In that simple rhyme, the value is indicated. The black sheep says, I have 3 bags of wool, but 1 bag of wool goes to my master because of whom I am, because of whom I exist, because of whom I am able to live the life that I am able to live. The second one goes to my wife, my girlfriend, which basically means it goes to my family. It needs to be used for taking care of my family, the people in the family, whoever I am related to, whoever needs that particular system. The third one is one for the little boy who lives down the lane, is for the community, because you are part of the community. So the money that you have is not just for yourself, it needs to be spread and shared with the community. So it is in these simple rhymes, in these simple stories, is packed the values that children can learn way before they even understand what values are. Today, you and me will have to talk about values and virtues and its purpose and its use. But this gets, what do I say, sewn into the deep subconscious mind of the children. So it's a small seed that gets sown into the deep subconscious mind of the children. And when the time is right, let's assume it's 25 years, let's assume it is 30 years, when they're finished their college, when they go to their job, and if it has been properly watered, it will germinate and it will produce its results. So what do we do in Balvihar is primarily sow these seeds in the subconscious mind of the children so that when the time is right, it will germinate. That's what the purpose of Balvihar is. That's what the purpose of summer camp is. That's what the purpose of all the activities that we do. Now, sowing the seed alone is not the main task. As I said, it needs to be properly watered. How do we water it? The story that I said last month, I will repeat it again because that is the most powerful message that we can take. We tell our children, always tell the truth, never lie. And then a marketing call comes and the phone gets picked up by your child and you tell the child, tell them I'm not there. Finished, gone. What have you done? You've basically sown the seed of truthfulness and then said, it's okay to tell a lie. White lies or black lie. It's okay to tell a lie. So you've now poured hot water instead of cold water on that particular seed and destroyed that very seed that it needs to germinate. So while the child is being given the seeds, it becomes the responsibility of the parents to water it. The teachers in Bal Vihar cannot water it. It's throughout the week that the child spends the time with the parents, and becomes responsibility of the parents to water it. Again, another message that I communicated last month. Children will always do what the parents do, not what the parents say. You can say it 500 times, they're not going to do it. But you will find whatever you are doing is what they will end up following. And so we as parents, the only way we can water that particular seed is let the knowledge, the values, the principles come into us first. And then if we live those values, by living those values, we are watering the seed for the child. And this is what Gurudev said, again, as to why Bal Vihar is a family program and not a program where you come and drop off the child and go off to Costco, go off to do your errands, go off to do your other activities, and then come back and say, oh, has my child got the knowledge? Yeah, maybe there will be one child whose subconscious mind is already fertile. And if that is your child, you're lucky, right? If that child is fertile on her own or his own because of their past karmas, that child will be lucky and will get that particular knowledge and continue to move forward. But that's not majority of us. We know that for sure. We know our children, we know the environment they grow under, we know the life that they live. Even if they have that fertile environment, there is enough chemicals that is being inserted from the outside world, which is destroying it. So we are not in a perfect environment, and it becomes our duty, our responsibility to provide that environment for the children so that they can develop and grow into successful adults. But how? Not by doing the same thing, not by sending them to school and asking them to get the highest grades. Yes, it is important. Please don't get me wrong. Don't focus on the grade. Ask them to learn. Ask them to learn the concepts. Ask them to learn the values, because that is how their mind gets expanded, and that will become a useful thing for quietening the mind as well. But not for the sake of saying, getting the grade. One, because we can tell other parents that my child got a good grade, or you can focus on sending them to a particular college or to get them the highest salary. That should not be the focus. The focus of education is broadening the scope of the mind, able to absorb these ideas, able to absorb these concepts. There is a beautiful saying that I've heard. Education becomes knowledge only when it makes the person humble, not when it makes the person arrogant. If education and knowledge is making the person arrogant, it is actually counterproductive and actually not helping that particular child. And we as parents, if we try to water it by continuing to tell other people and continuing to boost that ego of that poor child who doesn't know anything, it is we who have inserted, and we tell the child, you are arrogant. No, we created the child that is arrogant. And that is why, again, Gurudev says, children are not empty vessels to be filled, but they are vessels that we can use to provide them the necessary means by which they can get in and get that particular knowledge. They are not useless, they are useless, is what Gurudev says. Very beautiful word. Simple. Children are not useless, they are useless. Why? Because we have not filled that vessel at all. What we have done, we've kept the vessel aside and said, let's focus on the ego. That's what we've done. And this is what we are trying to achieve through Bal Vihar. This is what the entire curriculum and the system is built around is to take this highest knowledge that is there, but bring it to the simple ideas and concepts. And this is what we're trying to achieve. So what's the essential message here? The essential message here is simple. What we want for our children at the end of the day is truly their happiness, truly their satisfaction, truly their comfort. In and through all the success that we are looking for our children, what we are seeking for our children is their happiness. And if the path that we are following for happiness is not working, and there is a path that has been tried, tested, understood, and figured out, why not at least give it a shot? Why not at least give it a try? Of all the things that we are trying to give our children in terms of the various knowledges and classes and activities, I personally believe that this is the most important value and the knowledge that we can give to our children, because this then opens the doors or unlocks various avenues for finding happiness above and beyond every other thing that they are pursuing. So this becomes the bottom line substratum. This becomes the core principle upon which that child's life is built upon. And that we all owe it to our children to give. And, there is all the other things that we pursue. Yes, it is useful. It is important. We are living in a society. Nowhere Gurudev himself was master's educated in English. He was not an illiterate by any means. Swami Swarupananda was a highly educated person, very competitive in his school. If you ever talk to him, ran the business of his father, and then decided to take sannyas. They didn't take sannyas, as Gurudev jokingly would say, I didn't take sannyas because my girlfriend left me, right? That's Gurudev's joke a couple of times, that people who have heard it, right? So he didn't get rejected from the society and hence decided to take sannyas. It was, they have achieved what they needed to achieve in their life, and that is how they proceeded to move forward. So all the other things in life is extremely important, but this is the important foundation upon which whatever we can achieve can be extended and can be provided to our children. And if we don't do this, it will be a great loss, because there will be another generation of children that will continue to do the same things that we did all these years in search of happiness, only to find this at a later part of our life. If we had known this knowledge at an earlier part of life, God only knows how different we would have been as people in the lives that we are living and the works that we are doing. Again, I will stress this very importantly. This is a family program. If you drop off your child to Bal Vihar, and at the end of them, pick them up in the car and ask them, what did you study? Most people shrug off their shoulders, right? What did you study? That's typical sign by majority of our children. I don't know. They didn't say anything. But this is not knowledge that is given at the superficial level. It is knowledge that goes deep, knowledge that is impacted at the subconscious level. And I will tell you this personally, having been a Bal Vihar teacher for 8+ years, that this knowledge does sink in to the most least interested, troublesome kid in the class. I have had personal experience where I thought this child is not listening to anything that I am saying. It's the most troublesome, creating all the troubles in the class. But at the end of the year, you find these children making 1 or 2 statements that is so powerful that the person who was most attentive doesn't make. So it has got nothing to do with the knowledge that they have retained at the higher level. It is knowledge that has gone deep inside, and it will ultimately germinate and produce results. when the time is appropriate, provided we have supported it by watering it, by showing that this knowledge is important, by we as parents having practiced it, the same values. And if we have to practice it, we have to learn it. We don't know, majority of us don't know these stories ourselves. So if the child comes and asks you that story, you'll say, I don't know. What is the point? The child has decided, check, it's not important. So it is important that we as parents learn this knowledge alongside the children, not because we just want to learn it for our own self. Yes, there is immense value in learning it for our own self. Forget about that. But for the sake of the child, you have to learn it so that we can help water that child's seeds so that the child grows into a successful adult. And that is the main purpose of Bal Vihar. Couple of quick announcements. There is a very important announcement. The person whom I told you, Swami Swarupananda, who is the current head of Chinmaya Mission, is actually taking a series of parenting sessions on YouTube channel starting tomorrow morning. Only way, I guarantee you, this, if you put your children in, eventually one day they will find their happiness. And this is not my promise. This is his promise, Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda. And if many of us have experienced it, and I hope you all participate and take advantage of it also. Okay, so with this, I will do the closing prayer. And Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Guruve, 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 Guruve.